TopMedTalk.
Well, hello, I'm Desiree Chappell, and this is TopMedTalk. We are live from the European Anesthesiology Congress, EUROANAES2019, here in Vienna, Austria. And I'm with Editor-in-Chief of TopMedTalk, Monty Mythen. Hello, Monty.
Hey, Desiree, great to be back. It is the final day.
It is.
Of what's been a wonderful meeting. Very well attended. Lots of foot traffic through here, lots of great interviews. So, good result for everyone.
It is. And we'd like to thank Edwards Life Sciences for sponsoring us. They've
great.
Helped us out with the booth here at ESA, and we have had a great experience. Lots of really good interviews, I think a ton. So be prepared for all those coming out to you. We have had the opportunity to sit down with some of the speakers and presenters here at the meeting. We've had some key opinion leaders and some of the delegates too. And
some presidents.
And we have had the president of the ASA, Linda Mason, sat down with us. That was really cool. Some lots of great conversations. And we've had the opportunity to have a special guest with us this morning, Dr. Mike Pedro from New Hampshire. Mike, how are you doing this morning?
Fantastic.
Good.
Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down. I know it's always like, hey, come and talk to us, and we grab you. And never know what to expect, but just a fun conversation. So just give us a little bit about your background, where you train, where you're from, what you're doing right now.
Sure. So I trained at SUNY Downstate in Brooklyn, New York. While I was there is where I created what we call Supernova. Started a company with my father-in-law at the time, and also finished my residency. That company ended up getting acquired by Vyaire Medical, and I came on as their vice president of medical affairs.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. I've been with them for about 18 months, and I still am in clinical practice. I work at a small community hospital in New Hampshire. The anesthesia group is North American Partners of Anesthesia, Napa.
Oh, Napa. Okay. Yep. What's the facility you're working at? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
So it's Southern New Hampshire Medical Center. The chairman is Dr. Gary Friedman. Really, really good practice up there. You get to do a little bit of everything.
Okay. What's the size of the hospital? How many beds?
Just a couple hundred beds.
Okay.
But because it's a community hospital, you get to do a little bit of everything. So we do crash C-sections, emergency intubations in the ER, your general anesthetic in the OR, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's very cool. Do you need to do like cardiovascular or anything like that?
No, we do neuro, but no
so
major hearts.
Good. That sounds like a nice practice.
Yeah.
You recruiting?
I know. I was going to say, New Hampshire is beautiful this time of year.
Actually, we are. We are, actively.
You have CRNAs up there.
We do.
Okay. Yeah. That's good to know. Keep that one in my back pocket. Tell us, let's take it back just a little bit, because you said you invented this thing called Supernova. So I want to hear more about that. But that all happened while you were actually in your residency, right?
Yeah, it did.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so while I was like a second-year resident, we had a really hands-off kind of approach for our attendings, right? They gave us a lot of autonomy. And when we were in GI labs, right, or during emergency intubations, I noticed that a significant proportion of these patients were desaturating rather quickly. And where I practiced was what we call flatbush diabetes, right? And where dialysis was invented. So we had a very large morbid obesity population, along with end-stage renal disease and all the comorbidities associated with it. And got to the point where this happening so often, I questioned, am I just a bad anesthesiologist? Or is this a problem that's much, much greater? And just like any good resident would do, went into a literature research. And found through the closed claims database that morbidity and mortality associated with events outside of the operating room, right? That satellite anesthesia is rapidly growing. And a major problem.
Yeah, for sure. So then how did you kind of develop the idea, or I guess maybe tell us...
But what is it?
Yeah, I would say tell us what it is
Sure.
that you came up, your solution to that issue.
So what it is, it's called Supernova, and it stands for Nasal Oxygenating and Ventilating Apparatus. It's essentially a completely sealed nasal mask that can create an airtight seal so that you can now use low flows, such as 15 liters or wall oxygen, generate high enough pressures to relieve upper airway obstruction that occurs during deep sedation or post-operatively when patients are just out of anesthesia. And you can also rescue ventilate with it. It's great for cases that are where we share the airway, such as upper endoscopy or TEE, where we can provide positive pressure, not just to relieve upper airway obstruction, but also maintain lung recruitment as well.
So we would be very familiar in the UK, particularly in our institution, with using existing high-flow nasal oxygen technologies, using what was written up as the sort of Thrive idea, to have apneic, non-ventilatory, open airway maintenance of oxygenation, and you can argue maintenance of normocapnia. What does it add to that? That's commonplace now in our country.
That's great. And when we started developing it, was just when kind of Thrive got pretty famous.
Are you familiar with that? Do you use that, Desiree?
I have not.
So the existing high-flow nasal prongs turn. It's let's not undermine the great technology that's been involved. Very high-flow nasal oxygen, and you can have an apneic paralysed patient and work on the airway. So it's developed by in the context of maxillofacial surgery by a colleague of mine, Anil Patel, who passed by yesterday to say hello. And we've known for a long time you can have apneic oxygenation, and during apneic oxygenation you can also have some CO2 exchange despite non-ventilation of the lungs. But it is what it is, and that's very commonplace in the UK now. There's an ongoing debate as to whether it's truly proven its benefit, but it has been widely adopted because it gives you a lot of time.
But it's not.
So this is good. This is adding something I can see.
Yeah.
But it's what it adds. I think is people going to jump onto straight away.
Right.
Yeah.
So we tried high flow nasal cannula Thrive in our institution during that time.
Yeah.
But what we found was our patient population was too obese, and they had the level of obstructive sleep apnea was too severe, where the amount of pressure that it was delivering was not great enough to relieve that upper airway obstruction or provide significant PEEP for that compression atelectasis. I mean, think of a GI case, right, where they're applying significant abdominal pressure just to get a better view. So what we wanted to create was a device that could deliver up to 30, 40 centimeters of water of PEEP if needed. So it does a couple things that are also different. One of the other problems we've faced is hospitals don't want to purchase capital equipment.
Yes.
So we wanted a solution that you didn't need any capital equipment. You could plug into any wall oxygen to save the hospital that cost.
Yep.
But also keep the disposable costs at a very reasonable price, where we can get an added benefit where we not only apply higher PEEP, but we can rescue ventilate even during like an upper endoscopy as well.
So if I may, so I can see people sitting there thinking, okay, the mask interface sounds to me a bit like about sleep apnea technology.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I can see that, I can imagine that. I've got the Thrive concept because I've been hearing about it for a long time, and I'm sort of familiar with CPAP and non-invasive ventilation. It's found a space in there, has it?
It's a bridge, so it's really interesting. So the way CPAP works, as you're familiar, is it was made for home use. So there's intentional leaks, both in the mask and the machine. So to have a CPAP machine, it delivers over 100 liters of flow, so that when you set that pressure, it maintains it by adding more flow. But in the hospital setting, we only have 15 liters of oxygen to go with.
On your regular rotameter is capped.
Right.
Now, does the Thrive need its own machine, own equipment for it? Or
I'm not an expert on it. I believe it has the commonly available technology. I believe has a secondary machine interface. We should be careful we go in that. But I think I think there's a capex and a requirement for an extra piece, another box, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I just was wondering. I feel like I've used it.
No, we obviously neither of us know what we're talking about.
No, we don't.
Here, so, but that's my understanding.
Well, it makes me feel a lot better. I'm not the only one.
That's my understanding. Is we're not they're not swinging it round to the bedside and plugging it just into the wall. I think they're bringing a box around and plugging it.
Yeah. I'm just trying in my mind trying to remember.
Yeah. So it has a different regulator. With a humidifier that's attached to it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny as you're talking about GI patients. I mean, I did, our practice. I was in a community facility forever, and I am now, and we do so many GI patients, and I mean, the just rate of obesity is so much, and you have these patients, that are not going to the little surge centers or, GI clinics to have so they have to come to us. So every patient we're taking care of is morbidly obese. And every patient's, their airway is so difficult to maintain. And even if you're just doing a colon, colonoscopy, you have patients like, God, I wish they could put their CPAP on right now because this is killing. It's really difficult. And so I could see the application in there for sure. It's like, God, that would have been really nice to have a lot of times. So
I'll let you speak in a second, Michael. So we should have asked you to bring some kit over, actually.
I know.
Open the bag of stuff, plug it into the regular wall rotameter, and you're up and running, are you?
So it has, it's funny, we brought back some old school technology as well. Okay. Simple Mapleson C circuit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where it has an adjustable relief valve so pressure can be relieved. So that's the part that plugs into the wall. Yep. And then the other reason we had that, the Mapleson circuit, is we first were thinking about just going with an adjustable valve. Yeah. Right? But what we found is it was hard to tell whether or not patients were breathing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because at higher flows, sometimes in higher pressures, CO2 gets washed out. So we wanted that rebreathing bag so that we could both rescue ventilate and we could see ventilation. So yeah, it's a bag and a mask, essentially.
Excellent.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, so if they want to get a hold of you and hear more about all this, what's the best way to do that?
I think to go to the Vyaire website.
Okay. The Vyaire spelled V-Y-A-I-R-E, correct?
V-Y-A-I-R-E. Yes, that is correct.
So Vi and Air as we know it with an E on the end.
That's correct.
So we'll get that link, Nick, we'll get that link up on the website. And Supernova.
Yes.
And why Supernova? Great name, but
so it's really funny.
Great name, great song, great pictures on the website. But when you look it up, you're going to get a lot of images. You get to
some exploding stars.
Before you get to Mapleson C with a nasal CPAP mask on it.
So while I was in residency, I was really studying oxygenation and ventilation during the apneic period. So while Thrive was very hot, I said, well, what if we could actually ventilate during an emergency intubation?
Yeah.
So we published a paper that coined a technique called NOVA, nasal oxygenation and ventilation of the airway.
Gotcha.
But while we were doing that, we realized there's just too many inefficiencies that what we were doing would not be adopted universally.
Yeah.
So then we created our own device, and we said, well, this is better. This is super NOVA.
Now, did you really luck out, or was that the plan?
A little bit.
Kudos. Well,
that is such a good story. I love this innovation that you've done.
So I'm Irish, basically. My two Irish parents, and they often say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
That's awesome.
Good luck with all of that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
And hopefully we'll talk to you again in the future.
Yeah, well done. Good luck. All right, cheers.
Cheers, bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
TopMedTalk.
Nick Majerison here. Thanks for listening to TopMedTalk. Now, before we let you go, it's important that we remind you to subscribe to TopMedTalk. That way you'll never, ever miss another episode. Also, if we could encourage you to join us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pretty much every single social media platform, we're there. Join us. And finally, check out TopMedTalk.com. If you go to our website, you can subscribe to email updates. That way we can always tell you where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing, and how you can join us. TopMedTalk.com and click on the section marked email updates. Finally, TopMedTalk is proud to act as the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine. We'd love you to find out more about them as well. ebpom.org is their website. That's ebpom.org. And if you go to ebpom.org/meetings, you can find out about some of the wonderful meetings that we attend and cover across the year here on TopMedTalk. That's ebpom.org/meetings.